Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So you may have seen this video here where I covered the new upcoming lockbox, and well, disappointingly it wasn't much more than an announcement and that we were getting a new mythic artifact with it, along with a griffin mount. And well, they have very thankfully gone and updated it. Ambassador Kyle, the community manager, says they're dropping the lockbox tomorrow and they've updated the blog with some juicy details. And they sure have. We can exactly see what the mount's going to do, how it's going to perform with its powers, what insignia slots it has, everything. They even have some extra details in here like certain power effects, cast times, things like that for number crunchers. Really nice to have that for endgame players. But this power you can see right here is, yes, unfortunately, not going to be a whole lot different to previous griffins. The combat power is going to summon your griffin, it's going to screech, reduce the target's outgoing damage by 15%. This is on maximum 100% bolster. Stun your target if it's controllable. However, the unique effect is increasing your forte critical avoidance and awareness. So it makes this very good for a tank. You're reducing your enemy's damage and you're increasing your defense stats. Then it has an equipped power of crit strike and combat advantage. Very good for newer players, damage dealers who want those ratings. And then it has those 4 insignia slots with a crescent, illuminated, universal, and universal. Preferred being enlightened. We can see some details here exactly what's going on. The insignia slots is going to be Mender's Covenant, Executioner's Covenant, Trainer's Restoration. So yeah, this is what you can use with preferred. And without the preferred, you can use survivalist expertise. So not a whole lot of great ones there. Would have loved to see another tacticians, but alas, this is what we're going to end up with. You can see a bit of an animation there. It's not a whole lot different to other griffins. It dives in, screeches, and leaves. They hope it will be useful to tanks and healers in high endgame content. They are correct enough with that. The problem is it competes with the Eclipse Lion, it competes with Swarm in terms of them also adding a damage increase to the target, so they're generally more valuable, and thus you would use this as like a third option for mitigation checks for a high end game content. So it doesn't exactly have the biggest priority to use, but it'll be useful for, I guess, a newer player to have that at least. You can see the exact stats there. That's again at 100% mount bolster. And for, again, the number crunchers, it has like a cast time, but you can animation cancel the cast time with your mechanic powers, daily powers, and tactical mechanics. However, the power will immediately lock in. So when you go to cancel that cast time, you'll still have the power taking effect and going on cooldown. So it's really nice and fluid that you can do that. And it does have a 50-foot like distance to the primary target, and the stun and debuff effect is a 20-foot sphere on the primary target. However, the debuff and stun will only affect maximum 5 targets, priority based on the distance from the primary target. The debuff is refreshed but kept at a single stat if multiple players cast this combat power. But they don't specifically say does it stack with other griffins. That is something still to find out. And then just the equip power there with those stats, useful for DPS classes. But then we have the new upcoming artifact, and my oh my, they finally hit the nail on the head and added another good one. I'm very happy with that. It's going to be straight on Mythic, and it's a damage taken debuff. It's got that 1500 item level. It's going to boost your crit severity and accuracy just by those ratings there. This is the split on percents. But then when you go to use the power, you're casting a bunch of magic missiles, which are going to deal a bit of damage over time, over 6 ticks. And it's also going to apply the debuff, causing the target to take 10% additional damage from all sources. So you can use this during an artifact call. Really good. And as far as I can tell, it's going to be Mythic, account-wide. And yeah, that means you can get it on all your alts then. Now, for some more details on the use power, you have like the cast time. Again, you can use an encounter, daily power, or tactical mechanic to animation cancel it, but the power will lock in and will cast it with basically then no cast time if you use that power afterwards. Also, it will apply the debuff after just 0.67 seconds when you press it, but the damage ticks will start a little bit later, and those damage ticks will be affected by the power of that debuff, but your crit and deflect will be rolled once and affect the entire damage. Ranges very nicely, 80 feet as well. Keep in mind it will not stack with itself, but will stack with other unique damage taken debuffs. And again, they are actually clued in here, and they expect it to be good for high-end single target encounters for those artifact calls, those artifact burns, and they are 100% correct. That's the best use case, and it's really nice. Newer players being able to grab this as well, just from the lockbox, is invaluable. Not having to bother upgrading it, being able to have it account-wide and on all your alternate characters is just a huge gain. The more people that can have those readily accessible, the better, to be honest. It will definitely be ranking up there in the top 10 of the artifacts you should be using in an artifact call. Very fortunately, it won't override any of these, so it's an entirely new one. In closing, they hope the rewards will be enticing. These lockboxes will require enchanted key to open, and they retain the same reward structure as before, including plenty of items that should help you with your character progress. They also add in some hooks here for potential feedback areas, like on a role-playing aspect with Marco's Mystic Marker. The Griffin, is it unique enough from, let's say, Piercing Screech? Are there other niches you'd like to see filled? Let us know on the forums, they say. That's it. Really good. Thanks so much for all those juicy details, particularly adding in those number crunching extra information things. They're invaluable to us players at the end game level. Saves us having to test all that out specifically. We probably will anyway, but yeah, at least the information there is up front and we can see what we're looking for. But I would have liked to see, would this debuff from the Griffin stack with other Griffins or not? I'm assuming no, like the T-Rexes, they don't stack with each other. It would make sense the Griffins don't either. You have like Feywild Griffin having its resonating screech and the Armored Griffin having its piercing screech. It's very unlikely those will stack. But instead of giving ability scores like the Feywild one and the Armored one do both give, this new one is at least going to add something different with regards to those defensive stats. Ultimately, very happy we can actually provide some details, but tomorrow it will be coming. Again, we can see that dropping tomorrow, so I will be opening it and confirming whether that works how it says it does, and we can also see my RNG and the drops on the lockbox if there's any critical bugs or something with it as well. In terms of my feedback, I'm very happy to see another account-wide Mythic artifact being added to there. I do think the Griffin, however, is a little bit underwhelming. It's not that much of something new versus what we already could use, but it's alright every now and again. For me, the artifact well makes up for it, and at least the Mythic mount is on Mythic and has 4 insignia slots. At least has something going for it, at least for newer players. Massive thank you once again to all of these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.